to another episode of Duel Alliance with myself, Alicia, and Megan, where we talk the challenge every single week. We are at the midway point of this show, finally. We're at episode 12. And to be honest, this was the week where it's the mini final, it's the Purge, it's so much happening in one, and absolutely, I want to say nothing happened except for someone just flopping so hard that I can't even begin to imagine. And, as a correlation of what happened yesterday in America, I feel like ego was one hell of a drug. Just want to say that.
I see it. And we'll get to that lady later on in this episode. But Michelle's back in the house. She told Olivia and Kylan that we need as many allies as we can. Funny enough, sorry, um, that they need so that they can stay afloat in the game and scrape through and hopefully get some wins because it's at this point just them three as a trio with Theo on the side, I guess. Sure. And Michelle's targets and Nehemiah, Bananas, and Jordan um, are a decent group of guys, all champions in their own right. But with them being targets, it doesn't really bode well for Rachel and anyone that is affiliated with Bananas at the most part for the within the Angels. Because if Bananas goes, the Angels are going to be set up as targets by the rest of the house. But having similar allies between both Jordan and Bananas is a funny situation because everybody wants to have a stronger woman on their side. And Rachel likened it to the duel where the guys wanted the stronger woman to be with them in the end. And we're seeing that bode well within this challenge as well.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit last week, seeing that Rachel started cutting deals with so many different people and trying to see how that would work out with for her if she was to win the challenge. And so I think she was just trying to stay middle of the pack to be honest, like not middle of the pack, but not winning. And that actually turned out in her favor this week. But I will say Rachel will have some decisions to make if it does come down to either Jordan or Bananas and really try to show her hand to see which way she should go. And although I think it's a good thing that Rachel has so many allies, given the fact that she hasn't played on the main show in so long, it does put her in this situation now that it's having more decisions on her. And I don't know how this is going to play out for her, but I'm glad that she even has choices because I feel like Rachel started out with maybe like a couple of choices on her era and maybe one or two here on era 2 and era 4 with Josh and Bananas. But now it's more spread out with all of the other men that are left in the house.
Yeah. And we go into the mini final. TJ tells us that this is going to be a purge challenge. And the last place and man and woman are going to be out immediately. The second to last will be the guy going to elimination, and the woman will be getting the disadvantage next week. And given that deal was the last man to finish last week's challenge, he gets disadvantage for this week, which is a 2-minute penalty. And they're going through a challenge called Doomed, where they'll be going to checkpoints. Where at checkpoint 1, they have to grab a key, dig it up out of the sand, and race to get their paddle boards, and then use those to get to checkpoint 3 to figure out these puzzles. And the first people to be done will win and have power to send in someone to go against the losing man for the day. And this challenge, I was so worried for Aviv because she has Phantom's fasciitis. But she really pulled through throughout this challenge.
Yeah, once again, last week that injury kind of came up with Aviv, and it was like, damn, this is not a great time for this to happen when we're at the halfway point of the show, and plus it's a mini final, which of course is going to entail running. And so, I mean, Aviv did perform actually well, to be honest, in this mini final, given the fact that she is injured. So I think that's just one of the like the better bright sides of this episode is just seeing how well Aviv performed, and given the fact she was on the show 20 years ago, once won, and then like has come back and is still on that type of vibe. I'm rooting for Aviv.
Yeah, it was really cool to see like her just like kind of pull through, even though it's not great to really like fight through an injury. She was able just to pull through and just showed her willingness to just keep going. Granted, it's gonna flare up when she gets back home, but she really pulled through. And the top women of this challenge, Tori led the pack. It was her, Rachel, and Jenny really leading the group, and Kylan was just right behind them, with keeping up with them at some points too. Because at one point in the men's standings, Bananas was first, Kylan was second, but once we got to the checkpoints, which were the really great equalizers, it really showed who was separate from the pack, and Tori was leading the way. And you would have thought that Tori was going to be one of the better women of the season, given who we have left as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that I don't really like to see her on the show does not give my opinion away that she's not a good competitor for the show. Like, she is one of the top women. She's been doing the show for the past 5 to 10 years. I would hope she would be, but she is in this situation and in this specific season. She's definitely one of the top two women in the house. Probably put Rachel right beside her, and Bananas honestly, like everyone's kept saying, you do not want Bananas to keep getting momentum to get to this point, to get to a final, because you never know what's going to happen. He's a 7-time champ for a reason. He's outlasted people for a reason on these kind of shows. And also, I think what hurt Banana in this situation, which happened a couple seasons ago with him and Nani, was like he couldn't figure out a puzzle, and he kind of just was like, all right, well, that's kind of the middle of it. That's the end of it, to be honest. But uh, he made sure that he was in the lead, but he couldn't sustain it. And that's also like another thing. Is like, bro, you at a certain age, like you gotta have the mental and the physical kind of go hand in hand. And I don't think he had that this week. And it's just kind of a good balance to see like where he is within the group of men that is left. And I was not surprised, but I'm happy that Kylan was able to step up in this situation, because he was right behind Bananas for the most part. But Kylan was able to perform well above what I thought he would have been in terms of physically being ahead, and being right like behind Bananas. Sorry, a spam phone call.
Oh, you good. But yeah, Kylan was like, I knew Kylan would not be in the middle of the pack. He's shown like in his past seasons of the challenge, like yeah, he can keep up. He has the capacity to really be at the top, and this is really shown that. Like you would have thought, who would have thought that at this point, we would at some point in this challenge, Bennett be first, Kylan be second, Jordan would be third, Theo would be fourth, Corby in the fifth. Like, but then again, at the end of this challenge, Theo was unfortunately one of the last people to be done. But just seeing how this challenge went, it was like showing who was separate from the pack. But I was very surprised to see Kara being right in the middle. But that's a given of like how many women we have that's still in the game that are very strong. But you would think Kara would still be up in that top three, top four.
Yeah, I think Kara's performance this week, and I mean in the last couple of weeks as well, her performance has just been so piss poor that I don't know what to take from it. I don't know if it's exhaustion. I don't know if she's just not well equipped. If she's not, I really can't call it. Like, Kara's in shape. I just don't know what it is that Kara can't complete some of these challenges, and especially this week, where it's like you're in the middle of the pack. Like the first checkpoint, they're getting the key. I mean, Theo, for Christ's sake, was at a 2 minute disadvantage, came in, got the key, and left before her. It's just like, this is not even adding up to the Kara that I expect to be shown on this kind of, competition. And even when we get to the puzzle, it's just like Kara is so far behind. And I'm just like, I don't know how I can continuously put you in the top competitor of women on the show when you haven't been performing. Like, Tori and Rachel are here, but I would put her right behind Tori and Rachel, to be honest, if I'm just blind getting a list and seeing who's on the show. So for me, Kara's performance has been very disappointing. And I hope she gets it together before we get to the point of the final, or if she even makes it to that point. Like, because I don't know with Kara this season what's happening. I don't know if it's mental. Given the fact that Paulie's not there with her and, she's in the house by herself. She's basically a lone wolf in this house in a situation because there's two sides to the house and then Cara is kind of in the middle. So I don't know if it's that or what it is, but Cara's performance has actually been disappointing this season to see.
Meanwhile, with her inhaler and all, Jenny is still at the top of the group. I'm like, girl, like, but Rachel was like, hey, if Jenny is not keeping up with like the endurance because of her having to have her inhaler so many times, that's something to look out for. But Jenny, even with the inhaler, has been performing very well and has been able to keep up. So I would say props to Jenny because having asthma ain't no joke. And getting through that in this challenge, even with that, props to her for that. But with the puzzle, Tori was the first one to finish. Kyle was the first guy to finish with that puzzle as well. And Jordan was right behind him. That's when the equalizer of the puzzle really messed up bananas. But it was really a foot race to get to the end between Kyle and Jordan. With that, on the women's side, like I said, Tori the first woman to finish and head off. And I was like, I was also shocked that too. After Rachel and Jenny were finished too, and they went off to the races, Olivia was right behind them, and I was like, oh. Then as time went on, like it started to dwindle of people, and it ended up being Michelle and Laurel as the last two women to still be working on their puzzle, and Theo, Derek, and Nehemiah were the last three men to try and finish. Luckily, Derek got his puzzle, so it was just between Theo and Nehemiah. But it was a piss poor performance for Laurel to go from being in the top 5 at the start of this daily to being one of the last two women to try and figure out this puzzle, and also happened to just quit because she was like, I'm done, I'm over it, y'all got it.
Yeah, Laurel's ego took over at this final. First of all, Olivia like being so surprised that she freaking finished. She's like, I finished. And once she got the checkpoint to go to the other point, I think Laurel started to realize like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And not saying that Olivia was the reason why, but you can just look around and see how Laurel was just so out of days. She was complaining like she's gonna have a heat stroke, she's tired, she doesn't want to do this. She came up with this story early in the episode where they edited in about how, she took the money that she won from All Stars 4, paid off her veterinary school debt, and, she's being able to do whatever she wants, save the dogs in Vietnam, whatever the fuck she want to do. But I will say this, you coming on the show and popping all of this stuff prior to, I want to say this was even before we saw All Stars 4 when it was the 39 finale, and she's on the show talking with Cara. Basically, they were trying to premiere the show on 39 finale for All Stars 4 or whatever. And, it was talk about the GOAT and, who's the GOAT, who's this, da da da, blah, blah, blah. And, Laurel always has strong opinions. Girl, you are nowhere close at this point. Like, you may be in the top 2, maybe top 3, but you can't be in the upper echelon of that conversation of 1 anymore, because I don't think anybody should be in that conversation and just outright quit because you see the competition ahead of you. Like she saw, like Cara said in her uh, edit, she saw the competition and literally just was like, you know what, never mind, I'm out. Like, I'm cool on this. You have Rachel, you have Tori, you have Jenny. Like, all season long, we've been saying like Laurel is one of the top women. And for her to do what she did earlier in the season with Emily and trying to get Emily out because she doesn't want that competition in the final, to try to get Cara out early on because she doesn't want Cara to be in the final, for all of that shit to get to the mini final and for you to look around and be seeing how these women are competing, you're like, you know what, never mind. And you can't even beat out Michelle. Because Michelle was even like, damn, I'm still here. And she looked around, she saw Laurel, she's like, oh, never mind, I still got a chance. Michelle thought she was going to get purged out. So for the fact that Laurel couldn't even do that, it's really disappointing. And just her antics online the last couple of weeks we saw, or months, I should say, damn near a year at this point with Laurel and online and her antics, and recently with Norris and all that. It's just like she does too much to perform so little. that I just don't want to see her back on the show. I'm glad you paid off your debt. Congratulations, but don't come back if you're gonna do some bullshit like that because you see Tori and Rachel ahead of you. Like, girl, miss me with that shit. You are 40 years old at this point. You should be able to compete. Get them thick ass thighs up the hill and keep it going. Like, I don't know what that was from Laurel, but it honestly pissed me off, and I started to fast forward through her whole shit. Cause, like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? Like, bro, she pissed me off so bad this week, so bad.
You know what's so funny? And like I said, props to Aviv because that lady had plantar fasciitis. She beat you in this. You was last in the puzzle. You Aviv of one leg was able to have a really big advantage on you in this. How that happen? How?
I like I don't know. Like I really don't know. It's just not even I don't want to shit on people and be like, oh, she went ahead of this person. But like I said, once I seen Olivia go ahead, I'm like, where the hell is Laurel at? And Laurel was just lost in the sauce. And I'm just like, you know what, bro, this is just ridiculous. But the fact that she just outright quit, I mean, I just it's just not even it's disgusting at this point. Not even disappointing. It's disgusting. Like just don't come back on the show. We don't need to see you. Thank you for your service, as Shawnee O'Neal once said, but just don't come back.
It's so funny that she quit when she was already gonna be purged out. Like Michelle was already done. What are you saying you're quitting for? Like you were already about to get out. Like what was the point? Are you saying that? Like you were gonna
She's a
be leaving
loser.
anyways.
She's a loser. She's a loser. Laurel is what she is at this point because you quit basically because you saw you were gonna get purged out. Why don't you just take your L like a stand up person? But she's really not that. We've seen how she is, but whatever.
So other news, Nehemiah and Theo were the last two men. However, Theo was able to get the puzzle and once everybody was already up there, Olivia's like, wait, where's Nehemiah? Where's Theo? Where's wait, she was like, where's my man at? And Theo trudges up the hill, and that meant Nehemiah was also out in this purge. And I was like, from my own agenda, I wanted Nehemiah to keep staying, but because Theo has not been performing that well either, and I'm like, I don't care about that man in this season because he hasn't given me nothing. He's just been chilling on a holiday, and not giving me the Theo that I thought I was gonna get. But I should have known this because he didn't give us anything on World Champions either.
Yeah, I think we've been saying it all season. Theo has just not been here. Like once that whole thing with Paulie happened early on in the season, and he won that elimination against Paulie, and that was it. Like I haven't seen Theo appear since. Maybe here and there in some daily challenges if my memory is correct, but honestly, it hasn't been anything outstanding. So, and especially the last couple of weeks, Theo has been in the last. He hasn't been performing well. This week, no exception. Even though he had a 2 minute default penalty to start with, he actually got ahead, and I was like, okay, maybe he can catch himself up, but no, he ended up just being right behind. And Nehemiah, um, I'm indifferent. You know how I feel about Nehemiah. I'm not really, I don't really care. I'm not really like yay, nay. It's just like I'm right in the middle. But he did have a good season. He did beat CT in elimination. He was, I would say, not a strong competitor, but he was cool. Like he was right in the middle of the pack. Like he performed this episode. So, shout out to Nehemiah. Hopefully, maybe an All Stars appearance, main show appearance. I'm not 100% sure what you would bring to the show more than what you did this season because I think this is probably like the height of what we can see from Nehemiah. But yeah, All Stars maybe. I don't know.
Possibly, because like he could still he's shown that he can still go in like a group of like guys who are of the modern era too. So I wouldn't mind seeing him back on a regular season, but he really does thrive even on the All Star season. So we'll see. But he was very at peace. TJ was like, "Oh, sorry, Nehemiah, Laurel, y'all out." He was like, "Y'all got a redemption house." I was like, that would have been a really funny twist if they even did a redemption house, but we ain't getting it because I don't want to see the show go on till the New Year's. So we good on that. Um, but now Jordan and Bananas, now that they're the two remaining targets in the house, they have to plead their cases to Tori and Kylan to not go elimination against Theo. But funny enough, we already know what's gonna happen. Tori's gonna pick bananas anyways because her and Jordan are fiancés turned besties now. So we already know what is going to happen.
Yeah, it was not surprising. It wasn't a choice. I don't even know why they did the whole chamber thing. Johnny putting his toenails on the, like, I don't know what's up with these white men putting their feet on the table. Y'all really have no home training at this point, and you keep talking about your father. Like, why you keep putting your foot on the table? Between him and Jordan, I've seen in the last 2 weeks. Come on, like, what's going on here? But nonetheless, they went in the chamber, and Bananas wasn't even trying to plead his case because he already knew it was up, and so Tori was trying to still try get an understanding of what the issue with Banana is. Girl, at this point, let the shit go. Like, you have drawn a line, you've made it known that Bananas is your target, and that's completely fine. I'm here for it. Like, because you know, typically she's always in the background trying to stay friends with Johnny and stay friends with this person and that person, and so at this point, make your side known, pick it, go with it, and let's just keep it pushing. She chooses Bananas, and that's where we're at with it.
Yep. And Bananas was like, "Oh, it's speed," but he's like, "I'm doing all this, but I gotta really like kind of lock in because if I go, my girls are not gonna be safe. They're gonna be targets next week." So he's like, "I recognize like I am public enemy number one, but I have to stay in this game, not just for me and what I got going on, but for the ladies that I'm working with because either which way." He's gonna get targeted and still come back. Like his sockets keep going, his head keeps getting bigger, like JD Madonna. But he has to stay in to help keep his three ladies safe. So I see that he has that awareness of himself at this point. I'm giving him a little bit of inch, but he knows what his purpose is at this point in the game because it keeps shots going at each other. So yeah. And like I said, he's been treating this like a holiday. It's giving him on Love Island again, but this time he actually has a heart because when he was on Love Island on his first on his only season, he didn't have a heart. He really told somebody, "Hey, if you really like that girl, you should have gone home." But him having a soft spot for Olivia and whatever their situation was, that's kind of like helped him not be as locked in as I thought he would be. And that's not helping his game. You're here to win money, but it is what it is with that. Good luck and Godspeed to them if they're still together or not, but I'm gonna leave that right there. And we go to the arena. Obviously, Tori chose Bananas to go against Dio. And they're playing a game called Cramping Out, where they had to sabotage one another to as they tried to go through this tube. And they had to also admit the fit play high and low. And if they got it right, they would not have enough poles to put in there. But if they lost, they would get more. And the last player standing that can get through within enough time will win. And it was a really good elimination. Theo surprised me because that man is big. I really thought, oh, Japan is smaller. He can get through this a little bit better. But Theo really stayed the course, do the 1 minute rounds. But that 30-second round really did not help him. But it was a good elimination between both of them between those 13 rounds.
For sure, I think Theo definitely, you know, at least bounced back a little bit this season in terms of his performance in general, and just was able to keep up with Bananas, and kind of just at least maintain for the first couple of rounds until, obviously, like you said, we got to the 30-second round, and it was a little bit more difficult because the more polls that Johnny won was going into Theo's structure, so it was making it difficult for him to squeeze into it. But I really think that, Theo should at least hold his head up in terms of the performance that he had in the elimination, although he didn't win. It's something because, like we've mentioned, Theo's performance this season just hasn't been great. So, Bananas wins. I think I would have liked to see Nehemiah in this elimination just because I know Nehemiah is like the whole yogi and all of that. So I would have liked to seen him, but I'm glad that Bananas won.
Yeah, because I was getting tired of seeing Theo just lose in these dailies. So I'm like, okay, cool, we good. But Van's still here, and he chooses his targets, and he chooses Olivia, Michelle, and Cara Maria. And this is going to be very interesting for Cara because Cara, like we said, is like in the middle, but it was people that were not cheering for Bananas to even win. So we'll see how next week goes because I really think that it's probably Olivia's time to go because she can't just still be there and be at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, either her or Michelle has to go at this point. Like, y'all can't keep up.
Mm-mm. And with that, that is this week's episode, but we have some tweets from this week that I wanted to share. The first tweet comes from Bananas himself. He said, "There are two types of people on the challenge: those who say they want to run against the best in the final, and liars."
Oh, Laurel. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. This is okay. All these tweets, honestly, are Laurel draggings, and I'm really here for it. Because the next one is, if you can't beat Michelle in a foot race, you shouldn't be on the Mount Rushmore. Because, bro,
That is 100% true. Yeah, come on now.
look, going out, say it. And the last tweet, um, initial tweet was Laurel was actually crazy because Laurel came out and when she was leaving, she was like, "Oh, in a good moment," and she was in good spirits, but she lost. She got home. But someone tweeted, "Terrorizing half the house just to quit. Please." A whole bunch of
Yeah,
nonsense.
I'm not sure. Like we mentioned earlier, Laurel, just full of shit basically. And you know what? At this point, she won All Stars 4. She has that on her belt. Just don't come back.
Yep. And those are all the tweets. Not sorry to Laurel, but that is the end of this episode.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week to discuss more of the challenge. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can at Dual Lines Pod, and you can watch this podcast at Dual Lines Podcast on YouTube if you're listening. And follow us on Twitter at Megan Hines and Ace_S5. Peace out.
Bye.